the metaphors that you use to talk about the thing that you're doing, if they match the metaphors of your audience will understand you better. Which means, as you're presenting facts, if you're walking people through logic and you're leading them to the emotion, as you're presenting facts, you want to know what are the metaphors that your audience is thinking in terms of and present facts in that type of metaphor. So when, instead of talking about TCP/IP headers, if an executive says, so what exactly is a TCP/IP header packet? I don't understand. They won't actually say it like that. What they'll say instead is, I think you don't realize your place at this organization. Would you prefer to clarify a little bit because you have such bad communication skills? And you say to them, okay, well, imagine you had a little dog named Fifi. And Fifi had to find her way through the big suburb because she jumped out of the car when you were at the grocery store. Well, TCP/IP packets are like the instructions that you write on the back of Fifi's tag that say, if found, please return to. And they enable anyone who finds Fifi to send her off in the right direction so she comes home and you can feed her. And then they'll go, oh yeah, of course, I knew that. You know? So if you can find ways of using metaphors for the things you want to get across, sometimes when the argument about the specific item you're talking about doesn't work, you can use a different metaphor for the same thing. And often you can actually just pull a metaphor out of thin air and use it, and it'll carry on all kinds of baggage. Let me give you a current topical example, and I do not mean this to be partisan. What I mean this is to demonstrate the difference in political debate between which metaphor you use. We are currently engaged in a little exercise. Good word. Notice that's a different metaphor than saying war or conflict or whatever. Exercise makes you think of barbells and getting strong. You know? And in particular, people don't have a knee-jerk negative reaction to it. So this is one case where we're choosing our words carefully. Because my point is not about partisanship. My point is about this is how partisanship gets created. So we're engaged in an exercise. I've heard the exercise referred to as two different things. Some people call it a war. Just using the word war brings all kinds of baggage because wars have winners and losers. Wars imply that it's a two-way conflict. Wars, I mean, you can't cooperate with an enemy because in wars you have the good guys and the bad guys, you know, people and enemies. Which means if you frame something as a war, you're only going to think about solutions that fit that metaphor. Now I've also heard people frame our little exercise as an occupation. Well, that brings really different connotations because occupations don't so much have enemies, they have people who own a place and other people who are coming in and displacing them. I mean, it's a completely different situation, and it leads people to consider different solutions, even different definitions of winning, because a war can be won. So the resolution of a war is someone surrenders, or someone gets blasted out of existence. The resolution of an occupation is the occupier leaves. When you are attempting to sell an agenda, whether it's political or whether it's use my design for a machine or whether it's I think my marketing plan makes more sense. When you're selling an agenda, the more metaphors you can come up with to describe the effects of your proposal and the more different ones you can have ready, you can have much more productive and flexible conversations with people. So when someone says, oh, if we won't do that, it won't work because they will view this as us encroaching on their territory. Encroaching on their territory. That's a metaphor about countries, territoriality, potentially occupations or wars or whatever. You can say, no, 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 this is about us jointly making something happen. And all of a sudden, you're now shifting to more of a collaborative team metaphor. To the extent that you can use metaphors to explain to people what your proposal is and have those metaphors bring along the quote-unquote baggage that will predispose them to be in favor of your proposal, you'll be much more persuasive and effective as a communicator.